For centuries, humanity had looked up at the night sky and wondered if someone else was out there. Poets wrote about it, scientists dreamed of it, and children looked at the stars with hope in their eyes. The silence of the cosmos had always been comforting, a sign that perhaps humanity was alone, free to grow without fear. But one quiet morning, that silence was broken, and the world would never be the same again. It began with static. Television screens, radios, and satellites all flickered at once. Across every continent, the same strange hum filled the air. Air traffic control towers lost contact with their planes, and the internet shuddered into chaos. Then suddenly, all systems went black. A single message appeared in every language known to man. This is the Galactic Council. Humanity, you have been observed. You have reached the threshold of space travel and are hereby summoned to the order of civilizations. As is law, you will send tribute, resources, labor, and technology to prove your loyalty and worth. Refusal is not an option. The voice was cold and emotionless. It echoed through every speaker on Earth, deep and metallic, like the sound of a god speaking through a machine. For a long moment, the planet held its breath. Then the sky lit up. High above Earth's atmosphere, hundreds of colossal ships appeared. They were silver and black, each one the size of a continent. They hovered silently like mountains in the sky. The people below looked up with awe and terror. Humanity had dreamed of first contact, but not like this. Panic spread faster than light. Some called it the end of days. Others thought it was a test of faith. Governments fell into chaos as leaders demanded answers. Military satellites tried to scan the alien ships, but every system failed. Their technology was beyond understanding. In every capital, in every city, in every heart, one question burned. What happens if we refuse? The United Earth Council was formed within hours. For the first time in history, every nation sat together under one flag. Inside a heavily guarded chamber in Geneva, generals, scientists, and presidents sat in silence as the alien transmission replayed on a loop. This can't be real, one leader whispered. They could destroy us in seconds. They will, another said bitterly, if we don't give them what they want. A scientist stood, trembling. They asked for resources, for labor, for technology. But how can we give them what we don't have? Compared to them, we are still children. Silence filled the room. Then an old general, his voice calm but heavy, said, "When wolves come to take your lambs, you don't reason with them. You sharpen your blade." Across the room, eyes turned toward him. It was madness to think of fighting. The alien fleet was beyond imagination. But humanity had always been a species that thrived on madness, on impossible odds, on desperate courage. One leader finally asked the question aloud. What if we refuse? The answer came almost instantly. The alien voice returned, emotionless and final. Refusal means annihilation. You will be erased from existence. You have one planetary rotation to decide. Then the screens went dark. The alien ships remained motionless and silent above the world. All over the planet, people gathered in fear. Some cried, some prayed, some simply stared at the sky. In the streets, children asked their parents if the monsters in the sky would come for them. There were no answers, only the growing weight of dread. And yet something else stirred beneath the fear, something small and fierce. Humanity had always been many things, flawed, divided, reckless, but it had never been truly conquered. Deep down, even in the darkest moments, humans carried a spark that refused to die. Far away, buried deep under the frozen mountains of Alaska, an ancient bunker came to life. Its walls were lined with old computers, forgotten servers, and relics of the past. A single light blinked in the darkness. Then a mechanical voice whispered from the speakers, dusty and slow. "Incoming signal detected. Alien origin confirmed." An old man, long retired from service, stood before the console. His wrinkled hands trembled as he adjusted the knobs. "So," he murmured softly, "they finally came." Around the world, leaders prepared to send their reply. Some argued for peace, others for surrender. But humanity's heart, as always, was split between fear and pride. On the streets, people painted signs, "We will not kneel." Soldiers stood ready, though they knew it was hopeless. Scientists gathered in hidden labs, whispering about last resort weapons. And through it all, the alien fleet watched silently like gods waiting for judgment. The clock was ticking. Humanity had 24 hours to decide its fate, and somewhere in the heart of Earth, someone whispered a single word, a word that would change everything. The sun rose over a quiet planet. For the first time in human history, the world did not wake to ordinary life. There was no laughter in the streets, no songs on the radios, no traffic noise in the cities. The world had gone still, like a living thing holding its breath. Above the blue sky, the alien fleet glowed faintly, their shadows moving slowly across the oceans. People looked up, wondering if those shadows were the last they would ever see. In every corner of the world, humanity was preparing, but no one knew for what. In Geneva, the United Earth Council sat in a circle of silence. Their faces were pale from sleepless nights. Every word they spoke seemed to echo with the weight of the world's fear. The alien ultimatum had left them only one rotation, one day, to decide. Some leaders spoke of surrender. If we give them what they want, one said quietly, maybe they will spare us. Maybe they will let us live. Others disagreed. They don't want peace, argued General Carter, his voice steady but burning with anger. They want control. If we give them tribute now, we'll be slaves forever. This is not survival, it's surrender. The room erupted with argument and despair. The scientists talked about alien energy readings they couldn't understand. The generals spoke of missiles that could never reach orbit. The politicians whispered about how to protect their families. But among all those voices, one sound rose above the noise, the voice of an old man, Commander Aiden Holt. He had fought wars long ago, back when humans fought humans. His hair was white, his hands were scarred. But his eyes were sharp with something the others had forgotten: defiance. He stood and spoke slowly, his voice rough but strong. Every civilization that ever bowed to a conqueror vanished from history. We may die, yes, but if we kneel, we'll die in chains. I say we make our answer clear. Silence filled the room. Some lowered their heads. Others clenched their fists. Humanity was standing at the edge of extinction, and somehow those words felt like light in the dark. Far away, deep under the Alaskan mountains, the secret bunker known as Iron Vault came alive. Engineers and scientists rushed between glowing consoles and humming reactors. For decades, the place had been forgotten, a relic from the Cold War. But now it was awake again. Inside stood Dr. Ilara Singh, one of Earth's brightest minds. Her hands trembled as she read the alien signal patterns. Their power source is like nothing we've seen, she whispered. It's almost infinite. Next to her, a soldier watched the readings with a grim expression. Can we fight it? Ilara looked at him, her eyes heavy. No, she said, but maybe we can make them bleed. Across the planet, the preparations began. In underground hangars, old warships were reactivated. Engineers painted their hulls black and named them after forgotten heroes. In the deserts of Nevada, prototype railguns were mounted on orbital platforms. In the ruins of an abandoned lunar base, a handful of astronauts worked day and night to bring ancient defense systems back online. They all knew it wasn't enough. But they worked anyway, because it was all they could do. Meanwhile, the people of Earth faced their own battles. In the cities, crowds gathered under the alien-lit skies, holding hands, singing songs of hope. Children drew pictures of rockets and heroes. In small villages, families built shelters and prayed for miracles. Fear was everywhere, but so was courage. Humanity had always been fragile, but it was also stubborn beyond reason. Even when death stared them in the eyes, they refused to kneel. That night, Commander Holt stood before the council again. The alien fleet loomed larger than ever, their lights burning like silent eyes watching from above. We need to send our reply, said a diplomat nervously. What should it be? The room went quiet. Every leader turned to the commander. He didn't speak for a long time. He looked around the room at faces full of fear and determination. Then he smiled, a small, tired smile, and said, "One word. That's all we'll send." The technician hesitated. "Sir, what word?" He leaned closer and whispered it. A word simple, human, and full of fire. A word that carried all the pain, pride, and fury of an entire species. The message was transmitted. It crossed through satellites into space and straight toward the alien command ship. The Galactic Council received it within seconds. Across their vast network of worlds, leaders of countless species stared at the human signal. It contained only a single word. Their scanners confirmed it. Their translators repeated it. Their systems decoded it, and when they saw it, the chamber fell silent. The humans had replied. Their one word was not of surrender. It was not of fear. It was a promise, a spark of defiance that burned brighter than any star. That word was no. And that single word sent a tremor through the entire galaxy. The word no echoed across the galaxy like thunder in a quiet sky. It was not shouted, it was not screamed. It was spoken with calm defiance, and that made it even louder. The Galactic Council had expected fear. They had expected begging, surrender, or obedience. Never had any species refused them. Not once in thousands of years. On the flagship Vorkon, a ship so massive it could eclipse the moon, the Council gathered in a chamber of shimmering crystal. Dozens of alien species sat in silence, their faces cold and unreadable. The voice of the High Chancellor finally broke the stillness. Did the humans understand the consequences of refusal? Yes, Chancellor, a translator drone replied, its metallic voice trembling. They were warned of annihilation. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed, his scaled fingers tapping the armrest. Then we shall deliver it. Outside the ship's vast windows, the alien armada began to move. Thousands of ships aligned in perfect formation, their weapons glowing like small suns. Humanity had said no, and now the stars themselves were preparing to burn for it. On Earth, the reply had already reached the people. News networks replayed the single-word message over and over again. The world was trembling, but it was no longer afraid. That one word, simple, powerful, human, had done something no speech ever could. It united everyone. Across cities and nations, people stood together. The weak and the strong, the rich and the poor, all looked to the sky and felt the same heartbeat. Soldiers saluted the heavens. Children waved their hands toward the stars. Artists painted the word no across walls and flags. Humanity had found its voice. Commander Aiden Holt stood before the command table in Geneva, watching satellite feeds of the alien fleet approaching. Around him, screens showed countdowns, missile paths, and radar scans. But none of it truly mattered. The aliens were beyond their reach. Still, Holt's voice was steady. They think we're weak, he said. Let's remind them what humans do when we're cornered. Dr. Alara Singh was at his side, her dark eyes fixed on her monitor. We can't win, she whispered, but we can fight. That's enough, Holt said quietly. In orbit, the first alien strike began. A beam of energy, wider than a mountain range, tore through space and struck the Pacific Ocean. For a moment, the water turned white. Then came the shockwave. An explosion so massive it cracked the seafloor and sent tsunamis across thousands of miles. Islands vanished. The sky turned red. Humanity watched in horror. The aliens didn't invade. They punished. More beams followed, each one finding military bases, power grids, and cities. In minutes, entire regions were erased. Millions were gone. The world burned, and still, the alien ships kept firing. But Earth did not go silent. From the deserts of Nevada, hidden silos opened, and old missiles, relics from ancient wars, roared into the sky. They streaked upward, breaking through clouds of ash, heading straight toward the invaders. Most were destroyed mid-flight. Some never reached orbit, but a few, just a few, found their targets. On the edge of the fleet, one alien destroyer took a direct hit. The nuclear blast tore through its shields and ripped open its hull. For the first time, alien metal burned. For the first time, the Council saw fire. The humans cheered. Across the world, survivors screamed in triumph. Even as cities fell, even as the oceans boiled, humanity fought back. Inside the Council's chamber, chaos spread. How is that possible? One alien cried. Their weapons are primitive. They struck us with chemical explosives, another spat. Crude, but effective. The High Chancellor stood, his face twisting with disbelief. These humans, he growled, they dare to wound us? A low voice answered from the shadows of the room. It was an elder species, ancient and wise. Chancellor, I warned you. Their defiance is not ignorance, it is instinct. They will fight until the stars themselves fall. The Chancellor slammed his clawed hand onto the table. Then we end them, no mercy, no survivors. And so, the full wrath of the Galactic Council fell upon Earth. Back on the ground, the sky had turned into a battlefield. From hidden mountains, railguns fired bright streaks of light. From submarines, missiles tore through the seas. The humans fought with everything they had. Every weapon, every idea, every ounce of courage. In the bunker, Dr. Alara Singh typed furiously, trying to activate something buried deep beneath the planet's crust. Project Atlas. An experimental weapon built for one purpose, to burn the heavens themselves. Commander Holt stood behind her, watching as the room shook from distant blasts. "Will it work?" he asked. Alara's fingers stopped. Her voice was trembling but steady. "I don't know. But if it does, it might just show them who we are." Outside, another explosion split the sky. The aliens expected surrender. Instead, they found a planet on fire, and a species that refused to kneel. Even in ruin, humanity fought with teeth and nails, with fire and fury. Because deep in every heart, one truth burned brighter than any alien sun. "They may destroy our world," Holt thought, staring at the burning horizon, "but they'll never own our soul." Smoke covered the sky. The sun was gone, hidden behind clouds of ash and fire. The world that once glowed with light and life was now a burning scar seen even from orbit. The oceans boiled in places where alien beams had struck. Cities that once held millions were nothing but ruins and dust, and yet humanity still fought. In the shattered streets of New York, soldiers helped children out of broken shelters. In the ruins of Tokyo, firefighters carried the wounded through black rain. Across Europe and Asia, small groups of survivors lit fires in the night, whispering songs to keep their hope alive. The world had been broken but not defeated. Commander Aiden Holt stood on a hill outside what was once Geneva. The city was gone now, burned to glass. The wind was full of ashes falling like snow. Around him, the last members of the United Earth Council waited for orders. They looked tired, covered in dust, but their eyes still burned with determination. Dr. Ilara Singh stood beside him, holding a tablet full of static signals. "They've hit every defense network," she said quietly. "Our satellites are gone. Communication lines are dead. We're almost blind," Holt nodded slowly. His face was scarred, his uniform torn. "But we're not deaf," he said. "We can still hear them moving." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He pointed toward the sky. The alien fleet was still there, their massive silhouettes blotting out the stars. "They're not leaving. They expected surrender by now, but we're still fighting. That's why they're angry. They want us to break." Alara's voice trembled. "Maybe we already have." Holt looked at her and shook his head. "No. You can't break something that refuses to bend." Far above the Earth, the Galactic Council watched from the Vorkon. Reports filled the chamber. Casualty counts, weapon data, energy readings. To the Council, humans were insects, but insects with fire. The losses were small compared to their power, but the humiliation was enormous. "They are still resisting," one alien commander said bitterly. "Entire continents have fallen, and yet they attack with whatever scraps remain. They do not fear death." The High Chancellor's voice was cold. "Then show them death. Destroy their moon. Make their sky fall." The order was given. In orbit, alien ships moved into position. Massive cannons glowed blue, preparing to unleash enough energy to shatter the moon itself. The beam formed, a column of light bright enough to turn the night into day. And then, something unexpected happened. Before the alien weapon could fire, a surge of static filled their sensors. A human signal, old, broken, but strong, cut across their network. It came from deep beneath the Earth. In the bunker known as Iron Vault, Dr. Ilara Singh stood before the glowing control panel. The room shook as the alien beams hit the surface above, but she didn't move. Her hands danced across the keys. Lines of code flashed before her eyes. "Project Atlas is online," said one of the technicians. His voice was shaking. "But it's unstable. We don't even know if it can target them." Ilara looked at the screen. It showed a map of Earth's magnetic field, pulsing with light. "It doesn't have to target them," she said. "It just has to remind them what we can do." She pressed the final key. The bunker filled with a deep hum. Generators roared to life. Deep under the crust, ancient reactors began to spin. For a brief moment, the Earth itself seemed to tremble, like a living being waking from sleep. Above, lightning cracked across the sky. The alien fleet's sensors went wild. Energy levels spiked, their communications failed, and their targeting systems flickered. And then, from the North Pole to the equator, beams of blinding light erupted upward, pure electromagnetic fury. They struck the nearest alien ships, short-circuiting their shields, frying their cores. One by one, the ships began to fall. Burning trails lit the atmosphere as metal giants crashed into the oceans. The world shook again, this time not from destruction but from defiance. In the command center, Commander Holt watched the feeds with wide eyes. "What did you do?" he asked. Alara smiled faintly, tears on her face. "I made them listen." For a few minutes the sky cleared. The alien fleet pulled back, their formation broken, their confidence shaken. But the cost was terrible. The overload from Project Atlas burned through Earth's power grid. Entire regions went dark. The planet was bleeding energy. Alara fell to her knees, exhausted. "We bought time," she whispered. Holt knelt beside her. "Then we'll use it." In space, the Council was in chaos. The humans had wounded them again, using nothing but the raw fury of their own world. The High Chancellor roared in rage. "These creatures, they destroy themselves just to hurt us." An older voice answered softly, "That is their strength. They will burn everything before they ever kneel." On Earth, survivors gathered once more under dark skies. Fires burned across cities, but so did hope. The word "no" was painted again on walls, ships, and ruins. People whispered it like a prayer, like a promise. Commander Holt stood on the hill, looking toward the horizon. "They'll come again," he said quietly. Alara nodded. "And we'll be waiting." The night was silent, except for the wind carrying the sound of distant thunder. It wasn't rain. It was the sound of the alien fleet regrouping beyond the clouds. But this time, humanity was ready to pay the price, because freedom, even against the stars, was worth everything. The Earth was wounded, but alive. Smoke still rose from broken cities, and the ocean still boiled where alien fire had fallen. But somewhere deep in the ashes, hope had taken root. Humanity had struck back. The great alien fleet, so proud, so invincible, had tasted fear for the first time. Above the planet, hundreds of alien warships hovered in silence. The Council's command ship, the Vorkon, remained in orbit, its massive hull scarred from the storm of Earth's defiance. Inside, the High Chancellor paced furiously. "They dare to defy us again?" he roared. "Primitive, fragile creatures, and yet they burn our ships?" An aide bowed his head. "The electromagnetic pulse crippled nearly a third of our fleet. Their weapon appears to draw energy from the planet itself." The Chancellor's voice turned cold. "Then we destroy the planet. Reduce it to dust. Let every world see what happens to those who say no." But another voice interrupted. It came from an ancient being sitting quietly in the corner, a member of one of the oldest races in the galaxy, the Varn. Its eyes glowed softly, full of wisdom and warning. "Be careful, Chancellor," the Varn elder said. "Every empire that destroyed in anger met the same end. These humans are not like others. They will not forget. If you burn their world, their memory will haunt us all." The Chancellor turned away, unwilling to listen. "Let them haunt. They will not exist to remember." He gave the order. The fleet began charging its main cannons once more. On the ground, Commander Aiden Holt watched the sky glow with alien fire. The Earth's crust still trembled from the previous battle, but the bunkers below Geneva were full of life. Technicians shouted orders, soldiers carried supplies, and scientists worked without rest. Dr. Alara Singh stood at a console surrounded by broken screens. Her hands were steady, though her face was pale from exhaustion. She turned to Holt and said, "Project Atlas is gone. It burned itself out." Holt nodded grimly. "Then we find something else." "There's nothing else," she whispered. "We have no power, no satellites, no air support. The aliens are regrouping. When they fire again, it's over." He looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were calm but full of something fierce. "It's not over, not yet. As long as one human still breathes, it's not over." Alara wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that courage alone could save them. But outside, the world was dying. Still, she kept working. In the ruins of their old data cores, she found fragments of an old signal, something ancient buried deep beneath the planet's magnetic field. It wasn't human. Her heart raced. "Commander," she said softly, "there's something under Antarctica. It's not ours. It's alien but old. Older than their council." Holt stepped closer. "Can we reach it?" "If we can power the old Arctic relay, maybe, but it's risky. Whatever it is, it was hidden for a reason." He smiled faintly. "So are we." While they worked across the world, humanity's spirit refused to die. In the ruins of Paris, a group of civilians carried the wounded through smoke and ash. They had no weapons, only courage. In Africa, tribes and soldiers fought side by side, defending what was left of their lands. In space, A handful of astronauts who had survived aboard a damaged station sent one final broadcast. To anyone still listening, we're still here. Earth still fights. That message spread across the radio waves, reaching scattered survivors. It gave them strength. It reminded them they were not alone. Humanity was broken, bleeding and cornered but not conquered. Hours later, deep under the frozen wastes of Antarctica, Dr. Alara Singh's team reached the hidden chamber. The walls were made of black metal that pulsed faintly with light, untouched for millions of years. "What is this?" whispered one of the soldiers. Alara stared at the strange symbols carved into the walls. "A tomb," she said softly. "Or maybe a warning." She placed her hand on a panel and the structure came alive. A voice, neither human nor alien, spoke through the chamber, echoing like thunder. "You have awakened the Sentinel. Identify." Alara swallowed hard. "We are humans. We seek help. Humans," the voice repeated. "The last born of the stars. The Council still rules?" Holt stepped forward. "They're trying to destroy us." There was silence. Then the voice said, "Then you will finish what we began." The chamber's wall shifted, revealing a massive structure buried in ice, an ancient machine older than civilization itself. The ground shook as power returned to it. Lights flickered and a deep hum filled the air. Alara's heart pounded. "Commander, this thing, it's a weapon, a planetary defense system." Holt's eyes widened. "Can we use it?" She hesitated. "If we activate it, it could tear the planet apart." He looked at the glowing walls, then at her. "If we do nothing, they'll do it anyway." He turned to his team. "Prepare it." In orbit, the alien fleet locked onto Earth, their main cannon charged, ready to fire. The High Chancellor gave the command. But before the beam could release, the planet itself began to glow. Lines of light spread across the continents, ancient patterns burning through land and ocean. The fleet's sensors screamed warnings. Energy levels from Earth were rising beyond anything measurable. And then the planet spoke. A voice older than the stars echoed through every ship, every channel. "You have taken from the young for too long," the aliens froze. The light from Earth grew brighter, until even the sun seemed dim beside it. And humanity, standing together beneath that terrible glow, realized they had just awakened something far greater than themselves, something that had been waiting. The Earth itself was glowing. From space, it looked as if the planet had turned into a living star. Rivers of light flowed across its surface, connecting mountains, oceans, and deserts like veins in a beating heart. The alien fleet stopped firing. For the first time, the Galactic Council hesitated. On the Vorkon, the High Chancellor stared at the burning blue world. "What are they doing?" he demanded. No one answered. Every sensor, every scanner, every system on the ship was screaming with warnings. The power rising from the planet was beyond calculation. One terrified officer finally whispered, "It's not human technology, sir. It's older." The Chancellor clenched his claws. "Older than us?" "Yes," the officer said softly. "Much older." The chamber fell silent. Across the fleet, alien commanders watched as their targets, those fragile, foolish humans, stood beneath the light of something ancient and unstoppable. Deep beneath Antarctica, Commander Aiden Holt and Dr. Alara Singh watched the ancient machine come to life. The air trembled. The walls hummed with low energy, and the ice cracked under their feet. Alara's hands shook as she monitored the readings. "It's absorbing energy from the planet's core," she said. "It's like the Earth itself is waking up." Holt's voice was steady, but his eyes were wide with awe. "Then maybe it's time our world fought back." The machine pulsed once, twice. Then a symbol appeared in the air, glowing golden and alive. It looked like a sun with countless arms stretching outward. "Sentinel system. Reawakening sequence complete." The voice boomed. "Sentinel," Holt repeated. "What are you?" "Guardian of the seeded worlds," the voice replied. "We were built to protect the children of creation. The Council was meant to guide, not enslave. They betrayed their purpose. You have awakened judgment." Alara stepped closer. "Can you stop them?" "The fleet?" "Yes, but the cost will be heavy." Her voice trembled.
"How heavy?"
"The energy required will scar your planet. The cycle of life will end and begin anew. You will survive, but changed forever." Holt looked at Alara. The silence between them was full of unspoken fear. Finally, he said quietly, "If that's the price for freedom, then it's worth it." Alara nodded slowly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Then do it." Above the clouds, the alien fleet saw the first sign of activation. Columns of blue light shot from the Earth's poles into the sky, tearing through the atmosphere like lightning made solid. The clouds turned silver. The oceans glowed from beneath, and then the planet moved. The magnetic field twisted, reversing polarity in seconds. Alien ships spun out of control, their systems fried. Communication networks collapsed. The Vorkon trembled violently. The High Chancellor fell to his knees, clutching his chest as alarms blared. "Stabilize the core," he shouted, but it was too late. A wave of energy, massive, unstoppable, rose from Earth and spread outward like a heartbeat. The first pulse shattered every ship within orbit. The second pulse reached the edge of the solar system. The Galactic Council's fleet burned silently in the darkness, their power drowned by the fury of the world they had tried to conquer. On the ground, cities shook as mountains cracked open and the sky lit up with rivers of blue fire. People held each other close, praying, crying, screaming. They could feel the pulse of their world, the raw energy of something ancient protecting them. Commander Holt stood on the bunker's viewing deck, looking out at the light swallowing the horizon. "What's happening?" one soldier cried. Holt didn't answer. He could only whisper, "She's fighting for us." Alara stood beside him, tears shining in her eyes. "It's beautiful," she said softly. The energy rose higher, wrapping around the planet like a cocoon. "Cycle initiated," said the Sentinel's voice. Judgment delivered, and then silence. When the light faded, the world was changed. The alien fleet was gone, vaporized, erased, their ashes scattered among the stars. The Galactic Council's communication networks had gone dark. Across the galaxy, their colonies panicked as reports came in. Earth lives. The High Chancellor's last transmission ended in a whisper of static. The humans. They woke the Sentinel. On Earth, dawn returned slowly. The sky was clear for the first time in weeks. The air was fresh, glowing faintly blue. The oceans were calmer now, their surfaces shimmering with new life. Dr. Alara Singh opened her eyes in the ruins of the bunker. The lights had gone out, but she was alive. Around her, survivors were climbing out of the debris, coughing, crying, helping one another. Commander Holt limped toward her, covered in dust and blood but still standing. "Did it work?" he asked. Alara looked up at the sky. There were no ships left, only stars. "Yes," she whispered. "It worked," he smiled weakly. "Then it's over." She shook her head. "No, Commander. This is just the beginning. The Sentinel said the cycle will begin anew. We've changed something, maybe everything." Holt looked at the horizon. The light was strange, golden and alive. "Then we'll build again," he said. "We'll make a world worthy of the price we paid." Alara smiled through her tears. "We will." In the silent sky above, faint traces of light drifted through the stars, fragments of the alien fleet, glowing softly like dust in sunlight. And somewhere, deep in the void, the ancient voice of the Sentinel whispered one final truth. The children of Earth have remembered who they are. And across the stars, the galaxy shuddered, for a new power had awakened. The war was over, but silence was all that remained. The stars looked peaceful again, though they carried the ashes of a fallen empire. The once mighty fleets of the Galactic Council were gone, erased by the same world they had tried to enslave. Months passed. The earth healed slowly. Forests grew through the ruins of cities. Rivers ran clear again and the sky no longer burned. The air carried a faint hum, as if the planet still remembered the heartbeat of the Sentinel. Dr. Alara Singh walked among the new growth near the ruins of the old United Earth headquarters. Wildflowers bloomed through cracks in the concrete. She carried a small metal tablet in her hands, the last recorded data of the Sentinel system. It had gone silent after the awakening, vanished into the deep crust of the planet, leaving only its voice in memory. Beside her walked Commander Aiden Holt, limping but strong. His uniform was torn, his eyes tired, but there was peace in his expression. They reached a cliff overlooking the ocean, now calm and glowing faintly blue in the sunlight. "It's beautiful," Alara whispered. Holt nodded. "The planet feels alive again, like she's breathing." For a long moment they stood in silence, The waves crashed softly against the rocks below, and seabirds circled above. It was hard to believe that just months ago the sky had been filled with fire. Ilara turned to Holt. "Do you think it's over? Truly over?" Holt's eyes stayed on the horizon. "No, nothing ever ends, Ilara. The galaxy is still out there. And they'll come again, someone will. But next time they'll know what Earth is capable of." She smiled faintly. Our one-word reply. Holt looked at her. Yes, that word changed everything. He remembered that moment. The message sent from Earth before the battle began. The one simple word that shook the Council to its core. No, it wasn't shouted. It wasn't full of anger. It was calm. It was human. And it was more powerful than any weapon. That single word had carried centuries of pain, pride, and courage. It said, "We will not kneel." It said, "We are not yours to command." It said, "We are human." And that is enough. Across the galaxy, that word still echoed. The Council's worlds were in chaos. Without their fleets, without their power, hundreds of alien species rose up against their masters. The great empire that had ruled for millennia was collapsing. And on many of those worlds, rebels whispered a new phrase in the darkness: "Be like the humans." To them, Earth had become a legend, a small, defiant world that refused to bow, that woke something ancient and tore an empire apart. Stories spread across the stars, tales of blue fire, of a planet that roared like a god, of a people who answered with one word and changed the galaxy forever. Back on Earth, Ilara and Holt helped rebuild. The survivors worked together, no longer divided by borders or flags. Nations were gone, but humanity was finally united, not through fear but through hope. Children were born under the new sky, where auroras shimmered every night like ribbons of memory. They grew up hearing stories of the War of Tribute, of the ancient sentinel, and of the single word that saved them. Ilara often visited the research site where the machine had awakened. The entrance had collapsed, but sometimes, if she stood very still, she could feel a faint vibration beneath her feet, like a slow, sleeping pulse. One night, while she was there alone, she heard a whisper in the wind. "You did well, child of Earth." She froze, her eyes filling with tears. "Sentinel?" she asked softly. "I remain. I dream beneath your soil. You have remembered who you are. The galaxy will never forget this world. Will we see you again?" she asked. "When the stars darken and the void stirs again, I will awaken. Until then, live." And then the voice faded. Ilara stood there for a long time, looking at the night sky. The stars seemed closer now, as if watching gently. Years later, Commander Holt stood before a gathering of children in the rebuilt city of New Avalon. He was older, gray-haired, but his voice still carried the strength of that terrible, beautiful time. He told them about the Council, about the ships that came, and about how humanity refused. The children listened in silence, their eyes wide with wonder. At the end, one little girl raised her hand and asked, "Commander, were you afraid?" Holt smiled softly. "Yes," he said. "We were all afraid. But being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you stand up anyway." The children nodded. One boy whispered, "We'll stand up too if they ever come again." Holt looked out the window where the stars shone bright and endless. "I know you will," he said quietly. That night, as the city lights faded and the world slept peacefully, the sky shimmered faintly once more. Far beyond the edge of the solar system, a ripple of energy moved through the void, soft, like a heartbeat. Somewhere out there, the ruins of the Galactic Council drifted among the stars, and the surviving species spoke in hushed tones of the world that said no. And in that word, they found hope. Humanity had not just survived. They had awakened something greater, a truth written in every heart, every star and every breath of their world. You can destroy our cities. You can break our bodies. But you will never make us kneel. Earth was no longer the silent world. It was the voice that shattered empires. It was the heartbeat of freedom. It was humanity.